In the 8th year of marriage, because I encountered my first love, I filed for divorce from my husband who is worth tens of billions. I took the 2 billion assets divided by my ex-husband and remarried for love. However, I didn't expect that person to take me abroad and brutally kill me, and then return to the country to inherit everything of mine. On the 7th day after my death, it was deserted in front of my grave. Only my ex-husband brought me a bouquet of white roses. When I opened my eyes again, I actually returned to the day when I encountered my first love. Madam, which one would you like to wear tonight, this little Chanel suit or this Hermes silk dress? I'll take it to iron it. The nanny's voice woke me up from my sleep. At this moment, I am lying on the sofa at home, with a thin blanket that Leo covered me with before leaving still on me. Leo is my husband. We have been married for 8 years, but he is still as gentle and considerate to me as ever. In the past 8 years, he has worked hard to expand the company to a market value of tens of billions, enough for me to live a life of the upper class for 10 lifetimes. When I go out, I have a full-time driver with a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Every season, major luxury brands send me new clothing and bags for me to choose from. When I don't have time, there are 2 fitting models with almost the same figure as me to help me try on clothes. Among the 12 rooms in the house, 4 are specially set aside for my personal items. 3 Michelin-starred chefs cook for me in different flavors. 6 nannies and 1 butler arrange my daily life in an orderly manner. On my hand, I am still wearing the imperial green jade bracelet that he specially chose for me on my birthday yesterday, which is worth a building. I am weak and afraid of pain and don't want to have children. Leo said that being childless is fine. He is very satisfied with our world of 2. But it is precisely me who is taken care of so comprehensively that I will file for divorce from him tomorrow. Yes, soon, because I have been reborn. In my previous life, my full-time driver took a leave on this day, and the butler temporarily hired a driver for me to use. And tonight, I will accompany Leo to a charity gala, and this driver is responsible for taking me there. This driver is exactly my first love in high school. At that time, I was young and beautiful, and he was cold and individualistic. I had been a good girl for 18 years, and unexpectedly but reasonably, I was attracted by him. Later, my parents and teachers found out about this and forcibly transferred me to another school, thus cutting off contact. Leo is the spouse chosen by my father for me. He is very good, really, but he just can't give me the feeling of palpitations. So, separated unexpectedly and reunited after many years, like a thunderbolt striking a fire, after living for more than 30 years, I decided to follow my heart once. Anyway, my parents have passed away, and no one can stop me. I kissed him passionately in the back seat of the Phantom in the dark underground parking lot. Like a thunderbolt striking a fire, I tidied up my clothes 10 minutes before the gala started, went upstairs, and entered the venue with Leo's arm in mine. After returning home, my mind was still filled with that person's slightly weathered and heart-wrenching figure. When Leo wanted to be intimate with me, I pushed him away. Sorry, I'm a bit uncomfortable today. Facing Leo's somewhat surprised gaze, I reluctantly explained. But he was as tolerant as ever. He reached out and gently massaged my lower abdomen. His deep voice carried a unique sense of doting. Is it earlier this month? Then rest early. Tomorrow I will find time to take you to see Dr. G. Dr. G is a well-known traditional Chinese medicine doctor in China. Leo bought 1 day of his time every week at a price of 3 million yuan per year and has been conditioning my body all year round. But he couldn't take me there. Because the next day I filed for divorce from him. I don't know why, but I feel that life is a bit boring. You should feel the same way, right? Every day, I either go home and accompany me to watch dramas, have dinner, and take a walk, or work day after day. Moreover, my colleagues all joke that among big bosses like you, they have never seen one who is willing to be childless. Leo, find someone who loves you, just like you love me, and loves you so much that she can have children for you. I'm sorry for you. Leo was silent for a long time before he said in a deep voice, okay. Subsequently, in just 1 month, he arranged everything and gave me assets worth 2 billion yuan, including houses and cars. On the day when we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, he gently hugged me. His clear voice carried a hint of a sob. I can't bless you, but I respect all your decisions. Later, I was with that person. I bought him a house and a car, paid for his parents' medical expenses, bought a college diploma for his sister, and even gave her 1.8 million yuan in advance as a dowry. He was very happy and cooked for me personally. Simple stir-fried greens and carrot soup had a unique, homely fragrance. And the fireworks that I had never felt in these 8 years. After getting along like this for 3 months, we went to get a marriage license and became legal spouses. For our honeymoon, I chose a foreign island and booked a detached hot spring villa, wanting to have a sweet half-month with him. But on the 3rd day there, I was forced to be swept away by the rip current. Yes, forced. That person pressed my head firmly until I floated in the sea and couldn't move, so I was carried away by the sea like this. When I was found again, half a month had passed. My body was gnawed beyond recognition and could only be identified by DNA. That person cried uncontrollably on the plane back to the country, but after landing, he hastily buried me and then inherited all my inheritance. On the 7th day after my death, it was deserted in front of my grave. The ground was covered with mud and water, and even passers-by frowned and avoided it. Only Leo, holding a bouquet of white roses, came through the mud. He, who has always been calm and steady, actually knelt in front of my grave and cried bitterly. "Madam?" The nanny called me again. I came to my senses and pointed to the cloakroom. "Neither. I want that dark green cheongsam. That was custom made for me by Leo. He wanted to match it with my bracelet and surprise me, but I disliked it because of the color." The nanny was puzzled. "Madam, didn't you still say last night that Mr. has straight man aesthetics and the custom-made one is not good-looking?" I smiled. "I was wrong last night." The nanny mumbled as she walked over. "Actually, I also think it's beautiful. It really suits your temperament, madam. After all, it's something that cost hundreds of thousands. The material is really impeccable." I slowly stood up from the sofa, drank a cup of tea to suppress the surprise and excitement in my heart, and then put on a cheongsam. God has eyes. In this new life, I finally know what is good and right. The phone rang. It was Leo's call. "Ava, the driver has arrived. You go there first later. I'll come after the meeting." I answered gently, "Okay." After hanging up the phone, I immediately darkened my face. The butler was a little puzzled. "Madam, what's wrong?" "Nothing. Change the driver. I don't want to see that disgusting face again." But the butler said, "This? It's impossible to find another one temporarily. Besides, there's not enough time. Why don't you make do with it? Then book a special car for me." In the past, I had obsessive-compulsive disorder about cleanliness, and was unwilling to take a ride-hailing car. Leo had also spoiled me so much that I had never driven on my own. But now, as long as I don't meet him again, anything is fine. The butler had no choice but to book a car for me temporarily. But the car was blocked by the property management outside the community and couldn't enter. I had to walk for 20 minutes to get there. Walking is fine. It's just a matter of ruining a pair of high heels. But when I carried my bag and went out, that person was already standing awkwardly beside the car. As soon as he saw me coming out, his face also stiffened. I ignored him and continued walking forward. That person's voice sounded behind me, with helplessness. "Ava? I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you. But I really need this daily salary of 2,000 to pay for my dad's medical expenses this week." In those years, he was the school bully, extremely handsome and cool, and there was no one else in his eyes except me. When had he ever begged someone in such a tone? I paused for a moment. For some reason, I felt a little sour. But this sour feeling is not for him or for myself. In my previous life, half of the assets that Leo had earned with so much effort were actually given to this person by me. I fulfilled his greed and my selfishness, but trampled on Leo's sincerity. The butler's voice pulled me back to reality. Madam, the special car driver has cancelled the order. What do you think? The villa area is too remote and it's not easy to get a taxi. In these days, it's not easy for ordinary people to earn money. Naturally, they also want to quickly take the next order. The nannies can't drive luxury cars for fear of accidents. The butler can drive, but he slipped on the stairs a few days ago. His right foot is still a little lame. Although he can walk, it's difficult to drive. It takes 40 minutes to drive from here to the party venue, but there is only a little more than an hour before the party starts. I still need to sign in advance and meet Leo. I made up my mind and directly pushed aside that person and wanted to get into the driver's seat myself. But he grabbed my arm. Ava? Madam, let me do it. Owen, let go. The butler and he both looked at me with some difficulty. After a long while, he slowly let go. The butler worriedly said, Madam, be careful. Owen tightly clenched his hands. His voice carried a hint of pleading. It's only a few dozen minutes. I will drive as fast as possible. Yes, it's only 40 minutes. What am I afraid of? I can go back with Leo. Taking a deep breath, I turned and got into the back seat. Only then did the two of them relax. Owen immediately got into the car and drove me to the venue. Along the way, I quietly looked out of the window and didn't say a word. The faint rose incense wormed one's way into nose, carrying a romantic atmosphere. The soothing light music eased some of the awkward atmosphere. Halfway through, Owen tentatively said, Have you been doing well these years? I snorted. Can't you see? Owen pondered for a long time before softly saying, Actually, I looked for you back then. Enough. I don't want to hear any more. But my breathing couldn't help but become a little rapid, and I also felt a little hot. No, it's very wrong. My gaze immediately fell on the incense in the car. No wonder. No wonder in my previous life I was so unable to control my emotions. I had thought it was because of the excitement of meeting an old friend, so I lost my head and did something wrong. Now it seems that Owen had already planned it. Stop the car. I must leave this small and closed space immediately. But Owen didn't stop. Ava, we're on the viaduct. We can't stop. I took a look at the navigation. There were still 15 minutes to the destination, but it would take 13 minutes to get off the viaduct. Cover the incense and put it in the armrest box. I said coldly. Owen's back stiffened for a moment, but he still obediently did as told. The short 15 minutes seemed as long as 15 years to me. Until the car arrived at the entrance of the venue, I immediately got out of the car and slammed the door. Owen sat in the driver's seat, looking at me through the window. His eyes seemed to carry a hint of sadness. But I was too lazy to care. I searched for Leo's figure in the crowd. Finally, I saw that familiar tall and straight back and black suit. Husband. I quickly walked forward and held his arm with a smile on my face. Ava? Leo's gaze towards me carried a hint of surprise, but it was quickly concealed. What's wrong? I affectionately coquetted with him. Aren't you happy to see me? Leo's stern face immediately showed a trace of smile. Of course not. It's just that I didn't expect you would wear this. I shook the bracelet on my hand, indicating that what I was wearing was not just clothing, but also his deep yet restrained love for me. We walked towards the sign-in table amid the envious gazes of people. Outside the hall behind us, Owen slowly closed the car window, blocking that gloomy face. At the evening party, Leo and I were still the focus of the crowd. His technology company, because it has one of the leading chip technologies in the country, occupies half of the market. There are so many people eager to seek cooperation that they can't be counted even if they line up. As for me, I have good looks and excellent temperament. I have a decent associate professor title in a key university. I also enjoy Leo's unique love and am the object of envy of all the ladies present. After returning home, I climbed onto Leo's shoulder and helped him take off his suit. As expected, his eyes darkened and he carried me horizontally to the bed. After making love, I lay in his solid arms and watched a melodramatic Thai drama. He put his arm around me with one hand and replied to work messages with the other. I glanced at it. It was Jasmine, the vice president of the group. She is Leo's junior schoolmate. She also comes from a famous school with a high degree. Since her student days, she has been a famous strong woman. She is dedicated to her career and claims that men will only affect her speed of drawing her sword. She didn't want to get married, so she directly went abroad for in vitro fertilization. Before giving birth, she was still wearing a hospital gown and presiding over a meeting in the company. Now, she is in charge of the group's overseas business. Therefore, there is a time difference, and she often needs to communicate with Leo about work messages in the middle of the night. Leo doesn't guard against me. He let me look for a long time before smiling and touching my long hair. What's wrong? Do you also want to enter the company? It was just a joke from him, but I looked up at him. Can I? Leo obviously didn't expect that I would really have this idea. He raised his eyebrows. Did someone in your unit give you a hard time again? He knows how to support his wife. When I first started working, someone sourly spread rumors about me at school. Leo directly donated 2 buildings to the school. I nestled in his arms and remembered Owen's disgusting face. Somewhat guiltily, I whispered, I just feel that the company and love I give you seem too little. He put down his phone, held my face in his hands, and gave me a light kiss. I don't care about these. As long as you are by my side. My nose felt a little sour. I murmured, Leo, let's have a baby. Leo was a little worried. But your body? I tried hard to shake my head. It's okay. For you, I am willing to try. Even if it means going through a life and death crisis, I am not afraid. Anyway, I have already gone through a life and death crisis once. But last time, I gave my love to the wrong person. This time, I will never miss it again and will not leave any regrets. Having a child was still temporarily put on hold. Even though I really wanted to, Leo took me to see Dr. G. He said that my heart pulse is weak and I have cold body and blood stasis. If I want to have a child, I must take good care of myself for 3 months before I can prepare for pregnancy. On the way back, I pulled Leo to a milk tea shop and somewhat regretfully ordered the last cup of milk tea. After drinking this cup, I won't drink anymore. For our child. Leo smiled helplessly at me. The clerk asked me what flavor I wanted. A cup of osmanthus ice cream black tea, no ice. I love the milk tea of this brand the most. This is their new product this year. I haven't tried it yet. Leo frowned slightly. Why are you drinking something cold again? Cold ones taste good. I brought the straw close to his mouth. Take a sip and try? He reached out and ruffled my hair. Although his brow was still wrinkled, he reluctantly took a sip. The young couple behind us covered their mouths and snickered. This is Leo. Even after 8 years, he still complies with everything I ask and never refuses. But he will have to leave soon. There is a meeting in the company. He originally wanted to send me home in person, but I didn't want to be as willful as before, so I told him that I would go back to school by myself. Although he was a little worried, time was pressing. He told me to be sure to pay attention to safety. Only then did he get into the car looking back every 3 steps. It's only a few 100 meters away from the school. I decided to walk there by myself. Blowing the slightly cool breeze, I wanted to sort out my thoughts. But I didn't expect to see Owen again at the school gate. Ava, I didn't mean to disturb you on purpose. I just want to return these to you. He was wearing cheap casual clothes and seemed to overlap with his appearance in high school. But there was less casualness and more vicissitudes between his eyebrows. He was holding a big box in his hand, which contained various gifts I gave him in high school. Stereos, headphones, watches, all are famous brands. I bought them for him with the lucky money I had saved for many years back then. For Owen, these things are very valuable. But for me, they are just a pile of rubbish. And it's still a pile of rubbish that has been dusty for many years and is outdated and rotten. I casually glanced at it. Throw it away. And don't come to me again. Otherwise, I will call the police. You know, I let you go once yesterday. Remembering the incense, Owen's face flushed a little. He lowered his head and didn't dare to say anything more. After putting down the box, he turned and left. The security guard in the sentry box observed us for a long time. Only when he walked away did he come over quickly. "Teacher Ava, are you all right? Who is that man? I've seen him several times before. He sneaked around at the school gate. I thought he was a thief." "I didn't expect him to be your friend, Teacher Ava. Are these things still useful? Shall I help you move them in?" I shook my head. "No need. Throw them away for me, thank you." "Oh, Teacher Ava, you're being too polite. Mr. Leo has always taken such good care of our school. No need to be so polite." I watched the security guard move away the box and then looked back at the man's back. He walked slowly. Occasionally, when his pants were splashed by the sewage splashed by a passing student's bicycle, he just looked at it and didn't dare to stop the person to question. "Wandering many times?" "Heh, of course he is on purpose. From the beginning of our reunion, it is a conspiracy. But his reappearance today proves that he still hasn't given up this conspiracy." I made a phone call to a private detective. "Hello, help me keep an eye on someone." In the following days, it was a bit boring. Because Leo was on a business trip, I was the only one left at home. If it's early, he'll be back in a week. If it's late, it might take half a month. I invited my best friend out for afternoon tea and asked her about some things to prepare for pregnancy. My best friend smiled teasingly. "I just said, with so much property of your husband, how could he really accompany you to be childless?" I originally thought he was impotent. It turns out that he really spoils you. "You are so lucky." My face flushed slightly. "Be serious." "Okay. Since Mrs. Leo actually needs my help, of course I'll do my best for you." As my best friend spoke, she began to count on her fingers and explain to me. "During this period of preparing for pregnancy, there actually isn't too much to prepare. Take folic acid first. The XX brand is better. Although it's a bit expensive, it's nothing to you. There will be a lot more things to prepare after pregnancy. Anyway, someone will prepare nutrition products for you. Then remember to change your skin care products to ones with simpler ingredients and buy a pregnancy pillow." "Pregnancy pillow?" I was puzzled. "Is there a special pillow for pregnant women?" "Of course. It's so inconvenient to have a big belly." My best friend took out her phone, searched for it and showed me the picture. "Look, it's like this." My heart trembled. Half a year ago, I also saw such a pillow on the sofa in Leo's office. He told me at that time that he was too busy with work during that period and had a sore back, so he bought it casually. Seeing me suddenly fall silent, my best friend was puzzled. "What's wrong?" I shook my head and smiled, changing the topic. After returning home, I received a call from the private detective and received an email reminder. When I opened it, there was a phone recording inside. It should be recorded with a bug, and it was very clear. However, Owen's voice sounded a bit impatient. "She seems to have already noticed something is wrong. Now I can't get close to her at all. As soon as she sees me, she gives me a stinky face and says she will call the police. I may need you to create some more opportunities for me. This task is really not easy. You should understand it best yourself, right? For any woman who is with you every day, it's very rare for her to be so easily lured by an outsider." At the other end of the phone, an extremely familiar and calm voice drilled into my ear coldly, making me feel an unprecedented bone-chilling cold. "I've already given you a chance. In the last half month, if you still can't do it. For these 20 million, if you don't earn it, there are plenty of people who want to earn it." It's Leo. His voice is the one I am most familiar with. The only difference is that when he faces me, he always uses a soft and slow tone, and every word is full of concern and love for me. When working, his tone will be like just now, calm and capable, and there is no room for doubt. He is in contact with Owen. He asked Owen to seduce me and lead me step by step towards the abyss. But why does he do this? Does he know Owen's follow-up plan? Or is it also his plan? That strange pregnancy pillow appeared in my mind again. But the way he knelt in front of my tombstone crying loudly on the seventh day, looking helpless like a child, and that bunch of white roses in sharp contrast to the yellow mud popped up in front of my eyes again. Which one is the real him? I was in a daze and thought about it all night. Sometimes I was confused and in so much pain that my head was swollen. Sometimes I was so tired that I fell asleep unconsciously, but was awakened by nightmares. The next morning, I came to the school with a pair of dark circles under my eyes. But I didn't go in. Instead, I searched for that figure at the school gate. Sure enough, Owen appeared again, sneaking around. At the moment he saw me, he was stunned on the spot and didn't seem to know how to react. Ava, I just want to look at you from afar. I walked up to him expressionlessly and stared at him. This person is indeed very different from what he was more than 10 years ago. Although his appearance hasn't changed much, he has obviously been so battered by reality that there is almost no strength left. Only a glimmer of shrewdness remains in his eyes, which seems to be the only chance and hope he can grasp now. And that is me. Owen, let's talk. In the corner of a dim coffee shop on a weekday, there are few people. Owen watched me order, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. I didn't expect you to still be willing to see me. I didn't say anything, just twitched the corner of my mouth. The bitter coffee slid down my throat, but I didn't think it was very bitter. It didn't seem to be much different from that cup of osmanthus ice cream black tea. I really didn't mean to follow you. When you transferred schools, that period of time was really hard for me. I know that in everyone's eyes I don't deserve you, but I have to tell the truth. Back then, I really thought about studying hard, finding a good job, and becoming someone on an equal footing with you in the future. But it seems that God doesn't want to give me this chance. Now I have nothing else to ask for. As long as I can see you from a distance and know that you are living well now, I'll be at ease. Owen softly recounted his years of longing and regret. If it were in my previous life, I might really be moved. But now I don't have the patience to listen too much. With a ding, I casually threw the coffee spoon into the cup, making a crisp sound. Owen's words came to an abrupt end, and he looked at me in confusion. Speak. I said coldly, what's Leo's plan? What did he promise you? As soon as the words fell, Owen's face turned deathly pale. You. I looked directly into his eyes and watched as the light of hope in his eyes gradually went out. I still silently waited for his reply. After about a few minutes, Owen gave up and said softly, I can't say. If I say it, I won't be able to live. If you don't say it, you won't be able to live either. I reached out and tapped on the table. The imperial green bracelet knocked on the glass panel, extremely glaring. Anyway, as long as I don't take your bait. Once your mission fails, guess what he will do to you? Owen was startled and stared at me wide-eyed. Yes, Leo has always been a person who does things flawlessly. If Owen fails to get me for a long time, with Leo's way of doing things, he will definitely find a way to silence him to eliminate future troubles. You don't have to say it. How about I guess? I chuckled. With every word I said, my heart became more bitter. He asked you to seduce me to cheat, rekindle our old flame, and then take half of his property and marry you. Then, I will marry you. Everything I get from him will become ours. After that, I will die unexpectedly, right? As my legal husband, you will inherit all my inheritance. After all, I am already alone. Finally, I took a deep breath and then said slowly, what will happen in the end? Do I need to continue? Owen's forehead was already covered in cold sweat. He licked the corner of his mouth and asked me in an extremely low voice, how did you know? You don't need to worry about it. Okay, I'll say it. Owen told me that after he inherited my inheritance, Leo would send him to overseas casinos. Through this way, the money in Owen's pocket would become Leo's again. After success, Leo will arrange for him to immigrate to a country where extradition is impossible and give him 20 million to solve his family's problems and let him spend the rest of his life abroad at ease. Of course, this is what Leo promised him. But whether he will still have the rest of his life after he goes out is still uncertain. Owen covered his face in pain. I don't want to do this either, but I really have no choice. I'm just a hooligan. I can still act domineeringly in school. But in society, no one will look up to me. My dad has uremia. You know dialysis is very expensive. My mom was just diagnosed with advanced breast cancer. I don't know if she can survive, but at least if she has surgery, there is still some hope. But the surgery fee is not a small amount either. My sister. She has had 3 abortions. I don't know where her future is. Maybe she will end up as rotten as me. I just want to fight for myself and my family. In case of abnormal death during marriage, the spouse is the first suspect, so Leo can't do this kind of thing himself. Even Leo's usual contact with Owen is through the calls of delivery men. The numbers and locations are different every time, so it's impossible to find out. But I still don't understand. Why does he want me dead so badly? Owen wiped his face. Promotion, getting rich, and having a dead wife are the 3 great blessings for middle-aged men. You should have heard of it, right? After 8 years, even a fairy would get tired of it. Even if you divorce him, you still have to take half of his property. That's billions, not tens of dollars. Who can bear to part with it normally? Besides, you have always refused to have children for him. Right, children. But Owen doesn't know that those billions are what I deserve. Leo's father and my father were old colleagues. Both of them were originally in the research institute. But in that era, people were encouraged to go into business. Mr. Leo resigned from his job and started his own company. Later, the company had some scale, but due to technical reasons, it always couldn't compete with other large factories. In the year of graduation, my father introduced Leo to me. He is handsome, rich, and polite. He is the best spouse pursued by many girls. But he is only affectionate to me. After our engagement, my father got kidney cancer. My mother died early, and I couldn't handle it alone. Leo went to the hospital to visit my father every day on my behalf and took care of him carefully. He did even better than professional nurses. Before his father passed away, he gave all his life's research to him. The requirement was for him to marry me and take good care of me for the rest of my life. After marriage, with the technological upgrade, Leo's company began to progress rapidly. But in just 8 years, he actually wants to break the contract. I warned Owen, you wouldn't be so stupid as to let Leo know that I came to see you, right? Owen shook his head vigorously like a rattle drum, of course not. Good. Then wait for my message. After saying that, I picked up my bag and left the coffee shop. Outside, it had already started to drizzle, and the sky was overcast. I casually hailed a taxi and went directly to Leo's company. Mrs. Leo. The secretary was a bit surprised to see me because I rarely took the initiative to come to the company. In everyone's perception, I like flower arrangement, art exhibitions, and all beautiful and fun things, but I would never like to come to this company building that makes people feel a sense of urgency as soon as they enter. Hello. I had a faint smile on my face. I left some things in Leo's office. I'm here to pick them up. The secretary didn't suspect anything and took me into the president's office. I looked around. The pregnancy pillow was gone, but I could still find some clues. For example, the fresh phalaenopsis on his desk, the hand-painted mouse pad that was placed under the keyboard but still showed a corner, 2 toy cars with some wear and tear deep in the drawer, and a bottle of children's facial cream in the corner under the bookshelf. I turned to ask the secretary, has a child been here in this office? The secretary was stunned for a moment and then replied, General Manager Jasmine sometimes brings her child to the company and will also come in and play for a while. I nodded gently. Jasmine, the person in charge of overseas markets, returns to the country once a month and stays for a few days. She always brings her child with her. Coincidentally, Leo's business trip this time is also abroad. Or rather, this should not be considered a business trip. Should it be considered a family trip instead? Owen has had a very difficult few days. He has been sending me messages, but I never replied. He said, Actually, the matter between you and your husband should not involve me, right? So far, he has only given me a sum of money. I can find a way to return it to you. Can you please not involve me? After all, I haven't done anything yet, right? Eva, I know I was wrong. For the sake of our past relationship, let me go, okay? As long as you don't expose this matter, I'll do whatever you want. Please, I'm begging you. It seems that he is really afraid of Leo knowing. I'm too lazy to deal with him because I have other things to be busy with. I sold that bracelet and got 8 million. Then, I transferred all the money to a private detective. He took people and left the country overnight. Money makes the mare go. Soon, I received some videos and photos. In the video, Leo is building a sandcastle on the beach by the sea with Jasmine and a 2-year-old little boy. They also celebrated the child's second birthday. The luxury is comparable to the scene of our wedding back then. He hugged Jasmine and kissed passionately on the deck of the cruise ship. The person's strappy dress was wrinkled by him, looking completely carried away. Compared to his gentle restraint towards me, it can be said to be much more passionate. I seized the opportunity. At 3 o'clock in the morning abroad, I went online and exposed their power for sex transaction under my real name. The illustrated exposure information instantly exploded search engines. Because of the patent given by my father, I still have 18% of the company's shares. I sold them all at a low price. Subsequently, I unilaterally announced divorce. Half an hour later, I received a call from Leo. His voice was no longer calm but slightly trembled. Ava, calm down. I am already on my way to the airport. There are some things I want to talk to you about in person. Is it still necessary? I was in front of the computer, sorting out all the phone recordings that Owen gave me. Fortunately, he still has some sense and knows to record when contacting Leo. Presumably, he originally planned to use this to bind Leo so that they could be on the same boat for life and so that he could live in peace for the rest of his life after fleeing abroad. After giving me all those things, I promised Owen that I would not let Leo have a chance to trouble him. After a long silence on the other end of the phone, he said, Ava, I'm sorry. I know there are some things you can't forgive. But in these 8 years, you should be able to feel how I have treated you. Moreover, the company is the hard work of both our families. I know. If the company didn't have my share, you wouldn't want me dead. After saying this, I packaged all the evidence and sent it to my lawyer. Leo, between you and me, it's over. As soon as Leo got off the plane, he was taken away by the police. Jasmine went crazy in front of me because of this. The strong woman who has always been calm and resolute is now in the lobby of the company, pointing at me and scolding like a shrew. Ava, you're crazy. What good does it do for you to mess with him like this? It's you. It's you who refused to have children and refused to give him a peaceful and happy marriage. It's also you who only knows how to enjoy everything he brings you all day long but doesn't think about sharing even a little bit for him. Now, you actually want to destroy him and all his efforts in these 8 years? Are you still human? Don't you really remember any of his kindness to you? I looked at her and slowly, I smiled. Kindness? So kind that he wants to hire someone to kill me to get rid of me? So kind that he deceived me for 8 years and ruined my life just to get my father's patent? So kind that he cheated on me, had an illegitimate child, and still wants us to part on good terms without me taking a penny from him? I pointed at Jasmine, whose face was as pale as a sheet. If you want such kindness, then take it. Jasmine looked at me in disbelief for a long time. Then, as if losing all strength, she slowly slumped to the ground. I'm too lazy to pay attention to her because the people from the tax bureau have arrived. When there is too much hair and it grows too long, there will always be lice. The accounts of Leo's enterprise cannot be so clean either. The group exploded. The president had an extramarital affair with a female subordinate, involving power and sex trading and embezzlement of public funds. The most important thing is that he is also suspected of hiring a murderer. The stock price of Leo's enterprise plummeted overnight. The part 1 sold off earlier actually made a profit. Later, the tax inspection dealt a heavy blow to Leo. In an instant, a huge company fell apart. In addition, Owen disappeared. Half a month later, his body was fished up by fishermen along the coast. It turned out that before Leo got on the plane to return home, he was really cornered and actually did the thing of hiring a murderer. He probably didn't expect that Owen had already given me all the recordings. On the day Leo was sentenced to death, Jasmine also completely went crazy. The child was sent to Jasmine's hometown. As for me, with the remaining 60 million in my hand, I resigned from my job and took a plane abroad alone. For the rest of my life, I just want to see the scenery and taste delicious food. Then find a quiet and beautiful place and grow old slowly. Ava? I was gently shaken awake. Opening my eyes, the movie had already ended. Most of the audience in the theater had left. Leo was looking at me with a smile. Finally awake? You slept like a little pig. Leo in front of me still had that handsome face, but with a trace of greenness. Wearing a casual knitted sweater, he looked somewhat familiar. This was our first date. Since neither of us had any experience in love, Leo chose an art film. But I was very uncooperative and fell asleep directly while watching. I rubbed my neck, and memories came surging in one after another. My gaze at Leo also gradually changed from confusion at the beginning to vigilance. Let's go. I'll take you to eat. Leo didn't seem to notice. He just took my hand, protected my shoulder, and led me out of the cinema. There is a milk tea shop right at the entrance of the cinema, which is my favorite brand. Do you want to drink it? Seeing that I was staring at it all the time, Leo took the initiative to ask. I'll buy you a cup. I turned to look at him and smiled faintly. Sure. Leo gently reached out and touched my long hair, then walked over. Hello, a cup of osmanthus ice cream milk tea, without ice. When the clerk heard this, he was stunned and looked up at him. Sir, I'm sorry. Our store doesn't have this new product. At that moment, I saw Leo's back stiffen slightly, stiffen slightly, stiffen slightly, stiffen slightly, stiffen slightly.